I realized I was going to switch my shirt, and I didn't do it. And now this is just what it's going to be. So,
nice. What is the shirt?
It's a D&D shirt. It's like if you clip them together and put them together. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Welcome to Cyclops is Waiting for Me, an X-Men animated recap podcast where we are diving into Wolverine and the X-Men, not Dungeons & Dragons, for our first time ever with episode 5 titled Thieves Gambit, which I just got to point out, on some of the wikis, they took the apostrophe out of Thieves, including IMDb, but Disney Plus and Wikipedia have it, so that's how we're going to keep it. Okay. I'm JC, and by the time this episode goes live, I will have appeared on an episode of Solving for X, a fellow X-Men recap podcast. They're a little bit behind where we are from a timeline perspective. I'm going to be on X-Men Evolution, Day of Reckoning Part 1, and we'll throw a link in the description below for it.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah, we just a reminder, everybody, we started first. and I'm Rob.
Oh, don't worry. I guarantee you I said that during the recording.
And I'm Rod. I, like a lot of people in LA, are surviving a James Taylor song. The year started for us with fire. Then we had rain, like record amounts of rain. Specifically for me, in the middle of that rain, one of the windows to my bedroom shattered and rained into my home. So I was,
and we still don't know why. There's a mystery to Rod's window smashing.
Yeah, I was making lunch and I heard it. And anyway, luckily the screen was still up, so none of the glass fell in.
Right.
Lots of water fell in because records amount of rain. And then the next day, somehow, after the records amount of rain, I woke up at 3 a.m. to the smell of smoke, similar to how when the wildfires happened. And I was like, crap, I know this smell. And I looked on the Watch Duty app, nothing. Everything's... And I was like, is my house on fire? And then I looked at all the security cameras, nothing. And I finally walked outside, and the freaking apartment complex is being constructed across the street is on fire for some reason, even though it's all soaked. I know chemicals and stuff can happen, but like, what? Anyway, so I'm surviving.
I'm happy I'm not in your neighborhood.
Yeah. So Cyclops is Waiting for Me is our bi-weekly podcast series where we're going back and watching every single X-Men animated episode we can find. This podcast started with the original 1992 X-Men the animated series, building up to the release of X-Men 97. And along the way, we've completed X-Men Evolution and launched our companion interview show, the Xavier Files. Since season 2. We
need to do another one of those soon. We've been slacking. Yeah. No.
Well, we've been surviving. Like January doesn't count.
Shit has been going on. So thank God we're bi-weekly right now. Yeah. Fuck.
And since season 2 of X-Men 97 isn't announced yet for 2025, we're dedicating this year to all of Wolverine and the X-Men. The schedule is just perfect for anyone like me who likes to see the boxes filled in evenly.
Right. Some quick reminders. We are a recap show about a series that started over 15 years ago. There are going to be spoilers, and if you don't want to spoil it for you, pause the podcast, watch the episode, and come back. And we are currently not sponsored or affiliated with Marvel Animation, Disney, or Disney Plus in any way.
My commentary ensures that will stay that way.
True. If we ever had a shot of sponsorship, that is gone at this point.
Don't forget to follow us on social media.
It was gone as soon as you and Wally started the Cyclops semen joke.
Although, did I see something Punker Ducky posted? It was Sinister on Valentine's Day. It was like something about DNA.
Yep.
Anyway, speaking of, don't forget to follow us on social media at Cyclops IWFM Pod on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook. And at the time of recording, TikTok's still here.
I have to keep switching this like every fucking script.
So, like, as of recording right now, TikTok is back. Functionally, like it has been for a few weeks now, but also it's back in the app stores.
I was just going to ask, is it on the App Store?
Yeah, we all got a push notification the second it happened. Because the new attorney general, I don't remember, whoever in the government was supposed to write the letter to the corporations wrote the letter. And both app stores added that. Then the next mystery that most of the, at least creators, didn't know, we weren't sure what software companies were comfortable with the ban, because it is still even though we can use the app, it's still banned right now.
Yes.
So for those of you who don't know, the 15th is when creators get paid out from the app. So we didn't know, would PayPal want to comply, like, you feel like it was complying or whatever. Also, PayPal doesn't have the greatest history with one of the people who's making a lot of calls right now.
Accurate. Yep, I was just thinking about that. Yep.
But most of us did get paid. One of my friends had a weird glitch. I don't know what that was about. Scared a lot of us because he got that first. But we did get... So it looks like, as of right now, functionally, the TikTok stuff is back. Once again, this episode isn't coming out till early March, so who knows what it's going to be like at that point.
Yep.
But I did post today on the right day, so it wasn't like...
For us?
Yeah. So it wasn't
sweet.
It wasn't like 4 weeks worth of stuff. I did remember. I had a little bit of time today. I remembered, and it was especially because it was the one about like just don't touch people's hair.
Oh yeah, one of our The More You Know episodes. Yeah. Yes. Now on to the show. Today we are talking about season 1, episode 5, titled Thieves Guild. It aired on February 13th of 2009, and it currently sits at a 7.4 star rating on IMDb. I feel
Thieves
like
Gambit, right?
What?
Thieves Gambit.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I have it in the script right, yeah. So yeah.
But yeah. I loved it because the way that Evolution was titling stuff, I was like, what if this is about, Jubilee?
Yeah. Here they're just like, it's pretty crystal clear what's going on.
Even like Overflow, it was like, they could have just said like floods in Africa. It's like, okay, this is a storm episode.
Yep. Episode was directed by a friend of the pod, Stephen E. Gordon. Nice. I'm now confused at the structure of the show.
I was going to say, because we thought it was going to be not Monster of the Week. What was it? Like Foe?
Mission of the Week.
Mission of the Week.
Yeah.
The video game setup. There were other video game setups.
There were.
But it did continue something we thought was going to happen where they're going to like recruit more members. Well, kind of. They haven't recruited anybody, have they? Yeah, okay. I don't know. We'll get into that. It's like
we'll get into it. But quick previously on, it is actually the first previously on that doesn't show the Xavier having the headache previously on.
Yeah, it shows everything else.
Yes, we see the intro of the Brotherhood, we see Senator Kelly, we see the MRD, we see Rogue, and the mention of the Mutant Registration Act, despite the fact that Rogue and the Brotherhood have no part in the entire episode.
Because they're supposed to remind us that Rogue's a traitor as of right now.
I guess, and maybe it's because obviously we're watching these in batches and Rogue doesn't appear in next week's episode, so I don't know why that was included here, other than the Kelly moments, but the Rogue traitor stuff just had no meaning to it.
It makes me wonder now if they just had like 2 or 3 previously on recaps for the whole season. And
we'll find out.
And then they just pick whatever the most closely related is to that specific episode and just throw it on there. Because the next episode, minor spoiler, we see the flashback previously on again. So if we see this one again...
Yeah, we see there's the headache flashback and the Rogue flashback. Those are our 2 flashbacks we're working with right now. So episode kicks off with a girl who's running from the MRD. And I love how they subtly got into the heat powers, because as she's running, she steps in a puddle and the puddle evaporates quickly. And it wasn't just like, oh, there's a girl running down the street on fire.
This was, all of my notes happen in like about a second and a half. Because at first I thought it was just a little girl because of the shot they showed.
I thought it was a little girl too, and then when they did the pullout, the body shape was more really, teenager vibes to it instead of a child.
Yeah, she was really tall.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, not a girl. And then she stepped in the water. I was like, oh, this is magma. Even I knew that. And then, like you said, it escalated with the steps.
Yeah, because then it goes from starts to melt. What I originally said cement, and I know it's tar, but just that was my mess up when I was taking my notes. But I fixed it. I actually crossed it out. I love that it was melting the tar, but not the rubber of her own shoes.
Oh yeah,
it's like obviously we have forgiveness for the sake of the story and stuff like that, but like those are those things that you just kind of think about. It's like, wait, so her shoes get that hot, but then she transforms later into like the flame version, and certain clothing gets ripped, and unstable molecules is all we can deal with, right? Yeah,
or the best shoe brand placement ever.
Yes, it's kind of like how a certain character's pants are the only things that don't rip off of him in Brave New World.
Yeah, because he gets like really big.
Yeah.
So that
I don't care what kind of stretchy jeans he's wearing; those should not be lasting on there.
or even if they did stretch when he was not hulked out, he should have like been like wearing like overalls, right? Like pulling them up or something.
Something. Yeah. But that's for another podcast to piss and moan over. I did like the movie, for the record.
Same. I think I want to normalize normal movies being okay.
Yeah.
Again, like this is
a solid B is fine with me.
Solid Marvel movie, and I think New Rockstars put it best. Like, if you aren't into film or live in LA and had no news of the reshoots, and you were just some schmo going to see the movie, it looked like a fun military espionage story with superheroes in it. You wouldn't like notice like, oh, that scene looks like a green screen reshoot or something like that.
Right.
It's just it's whatever. Now, I do have beef with like why they included so many shots of a funeral in the trailers that did not happen in the movie. That's different than a character. Entire scenes.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
But trailers that were up to the very last one, like a week or two before the movie came out, showed extended scenes of Liv Tyler and Anthony Mackie and everybody at a funeral. No funeral happened in this movie.
Okay, I know what I'm rewatching after I get off of this recording. Helicopter appears, and then Magma catches on fire, and then basically makes a lava explosion in the middle of an intersection, and almost kills a lot of people.
Yeah, I basically destroys a city block.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Cars start exploding. The MRD arrives. Logan arrives. And then Logan has the power dampener. I've not seen the story of the X-Men being the origin of the power dampener. And I'm like, that. I love the spin on it right from the beginning.
That was interesting. I was like, "Ooh, okay." Especially when we find out. Anyway, well, we get to when we get there. It was like, okay. Yep. I was like, have they already been? Okay, yeah.
So we find out that all this is being watched on video by this woman whose name we find out later in the episode is Sybil Zane, and then she's just with a bunch of like mercenary Thieves Guild people. And
I had no idea who any of these people were.
You know, I didn't do that on the research because I went to all of our standard wikis, and dude, none of them are doing like real write-ups on these episodes anymore. Like, I'm gonna have to actually like spend some time in advance and like actually digging on some of this stuff. So.
I will say they did look very specific. So either those were like Larry Houston-esque cameos, or Stephen Gordon and team just went to town on like creating random costumes and stuff. Because
from what I can see with a quick search online, she is created for this show. She is not a character that existed outside of that.
She fits that like animated type of like Bayonetta for me.
Oh, 100%.
So I was half expecting her to like whip out like swords from her shoes or something, you know, and start fighting. She didn't.
Yeah, she also reminds me of there is a doctor who has a mutant power in the recent Deadpool volumes. Mm-hmm. Very similar like vibe to her, but with the big Bayonetta ponytail and stuff that. Yeah, and she's, you know, basically being like, oh, I thought... And sorry, real quick, I actually left space in my notes to write the names of all of those thieves. Mm-hmm. Couldn't find any of them, so there's literally just a line that has a dash that was like where those names were going to go.
But they all obscured one specific one that we would have recognized.
Of course. And they're all basically being like, yeah, we can't do this, and Gambit is the big reveal, and he's like, the big question is, can you afford me? Which is a great intro for Gambit to have in this series.
So it was interesting to kind of find out that he wasn't part of the original X-Men in this universe.
Yes.
So he's not being like re-recruited.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
So that's where we kick into the animated intro. Come back from that, and you see Amara is with Logan. She still has the collar around her neck, and it looks like her angry dad is rich and has a jet from Brazil for her.
Yeah, I kind of took it. Maybe he's like a politician or something.
Yeah, it kind of gave me a little bit of DaCosta family vibes from Sunspot, you know.
Mainly because he walked out of, or not walked, he walked out of the entrance of the jet in like a sharp suit. So it just made it look like he was made for appearances.
And it very much felt like the kind of jet, like I've mentioned it before. I'd been fortunate enough when I worked at WWE, like I got to fly on the private jet when I was there. It was that little tiny jet that, you know, they just dropped the stairs and you only fit like a handful of people in there for you kind of vibes. So, and
maybe this is just the state of the last few weeks, and me being like extra alert about flights just being an average of 3 or 4 a week crashing and stuff. But I was taking an alarm of like this girl that spontaneously combusts that doesn't seem like she can control it getting on a plane.
Well, she doesn't want to give the collar back, and I get why. Like, especially this whole thing of like, oh yeah, I couldn't control because I was just stressed out from being chased. So she has to worry about like, is there stress on the flight? Is there is she going to get chased by people when she's back in Brazil and stuff like that? And Logan's like, no, sorry, I got to take it back. We only got one.
Well, he said it wasn't good for her to.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. It was. Well, there's only one.
Yeah.
And it wasn't good for long-term use.
Yeah, because it was like and at that time I didn't even know if that was necessarily true because I was like, yeah, we're just going to let that tech be out there.
Yeah.
So, but it did seem like later on they verified like it's unhealthy for you in some way, which feels like a Chekhov's gun. So it's going to come back at some point.
Yeah. I did like that we got another awkward Homer moment from this episode because Wolverine is like watching the plane and he literally just walks like straight backwards into a shadow. And I don't know if everything is inspired by The Simpsons or The Simpsons have just done so much, but it totally felt like a Homer moment for me.
I remember seeing that, but didn't put that together until you said it, and then I immediately like saw it in my head. Well, we have the clip for the week. Then hopefully I still have that template of the Homer going back in the bush. Didn't one of the Comic-Cons build that bush this last con season for people to go into? I think I saw some videos coming from a convention.
Probably.
And it was like a Simpsons activation. They literally just had a bush there with a photo op of you being able to like walk backwards into it. It's brilliant. Whoever came up with that needs a raise.
That sounds like San Diego because that sounds expensive. Yeah. So back at the mansion, Forge is there, and he's really excited. Like he's a really excitable character.
He's like all the makers that I know. They have these ideas, and they just like want to show you how they work because it probably took them a year to get to work.
Yeah. And they start talking about how it worked, but the MRD purposely pushed her towards a populated area, which we know, like, I don't know if I'm using the phrase false flag properly when I'm saying it here, but that's what it comes to mind for, of like creating propaganda moments by getting somebody into a bad position, you know?
Like a form of like entrapment or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I guarantee we're using both phrases wrong, but I think people probably know what we mean by it.
Now, it is interesting. Once again, since I don't really know the comics that much, for me to see Forge be responsible for the power dampening collars the second time now, or I guess this is the first time for me. Like, I didn't know if that's like an ongoing story with Forge, that he routinely comes up with those collars or has something to do with it. Because... minor spoiler, I guess if you haven't seen X-Men 97, we find out like Forge had done research that eventually created like the power dampening collars that depowered Storm and stuff, that became the rated depowered Storm. So it was interesting to see it here too, but not in like a dark sort of way.
He did, yes.
Oh, so it like does happen. So it's like ongoing story. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Yep. I do like that Google really wanted to autocorrect it to Ford, as in Henry Ford, and not Forge. Yes,
they're
but
like
that is
power dampening. Yes, it's a Ford. There's some car people out there and like appreciate that. I don't know if that's a joke or not, but you can put it together if you are a car person.
But then going back to what you were mentioning, Logan does want to make sure that it can have adjustments in the future to be able to get some long-term use to help protect people, especially if there's somebody who has a dangerous power and such. I think it's funny because it's like, oh, that looks like the kind of thing that would melt if it was thrown around hot magma, Right.
Oh, yeah. You know what, though? I just put it together, and this is not even a dumb call. I'm going to... My prediction now is this collar technology is what stops the... No, we can't, because it's not time traveling. Okay, never mind. Forget about all that. I keep forgetting that the Xavier having the big flash thing is not a premonition. That's what it felt like the first time I saw it. I was going to say, like, oh, that's going to stop him from doing that. Or maybe, no, there is kind of... I guess, if time travel becomes a bigger thing besides Xavier telepathically going back, then maybe this collar technology somehow stops that event from happening.
Okay. I've given up trying to discredit your theories at this point, because...
That one I actually thought about, so it might not happen.
You put too much effort into it, so it's going to ring false. Yeah. And then Logan throws it into a little vault thing. So we get a series of shots of people inside the mansion. You get Kitty in her room on a laptop. What I describe as hot Emma brushing her hair. Beast is grooming himself. And then there's sad Logan talking to Charles. So at least sad Logan is consistent across multiple series.
Yeah.
But he's basically just being like, sorry, Chuck, I'm struggling. I'm not as good as this as you are. Meanwhile, Cyclops is debating, throwing himself out a window right now.
Oh, yeah, right. Because is he at the mansion?
Yeah, he's just super depressed.
We just haven't seen him in this shot.
Yeah, he's not in this episode. There's an explosion in the middle of the night. There's 7 times in this episode where Logan is just sniffing, and this is one of them. He pops his claws, and he goes out into the central area. Gambit security disposal, whatever you want to call it, it seems really sloppy at the same time when it didn't set off any alarms.
Yeah.
Because it's the thing was hanging out of the wall over Logan's head. There's the beam that's holding the elevator open and everything like that. But it's it's not subtle that the explosion took place to get into Forge's lab and then grab it.
It seems like he knew, he was confident he was going to be fast enough that none of that stuff was going to matter. Also,
nobody else wakes up from an explosion in the mansion.
It's all that hair brushing. Everybody but Kitty was brushing their hair.
Yeah. Kitty is just intangible so when she sleeps, so nothing shakes her. So the safe is cracked. You see that it's missing. And then Logan goes and gets on his motorcycle in full uniform by himself in the middle of the night and starts sniffing to figure out what direction to go. Doesn't tell the rest of the team.
I would have loved a Sabretooth cameo here. They find each other through the scent again, because it's the motorcycle and the sniffing, and it's hardwired now since evolution.
At least I haven't yet. And again, anybody who's listening to this episode for the first time, just in case, do not spoil stuff, because we have not watched the rest of the series. It's our first time watching through. I don't know if I've seen artwork for Sabretooth in this series.
I don't think I have, but yeah. But I haven't seen a lot about this show before we start watching it either.
I mean, same, but I've at least seen certain character images and stuff like that, like the team and stuff. You get the handoff between Gambit and the collar, and he gets a bonus to keep his mouth shut.
I feel like in a non-G rated version of this, she would have shot him in the head.
Oh, 100%. That's
how you keep him quiet.
Yeah. If this was Daredevil on Netflix, there would have just been immediately a bullet through the back of his skull.
Right. Yeah. Have you heard the showrunner for the Daredevil Born Again said that Born Again is going to be more violent than Netflix? I find that hard to believe on Disney.
I love that.
I love it, but I find that I don't know if that's true. That sounds like marketing hype.
I don't know, because if you're not more violent, that's going to get used against you in a negative way.
I see. I forget who made the call, but someone, not me, had predicted the showrunner is probably thinking one specific scene,
right?
And so it's not like the whole show is, but there's one gruesome thing that happens, and probably to a character we all love, so it hits harder. So I'm still following the internet of everybody trying to predict, does Carrion Foggy make it out of the first episode?
He is literally dealing with a character who's a serial killer.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, I love how it was just yep, I'm just going to give you extra money so you keep your mouth shut. And it's I feel like she would have just negotiated that in the first place of if you fuck me over, I'll have you killed.
Yeah, and shown an example.
Yep. And then on her way, as she's in her all white outfit in a sports car. She calls Kelly, and it's like, yep, phase 1 is complete, got the package. And it's like, all right, cool, proceed as planned. So
yeah, that's where we get the name drop of Ms. Zane. It was like, I guess that was supposed to be important, but apparently not. Maybe,
I mean, she has a name. That's character building.
Maybe it was someone's relative on the show, and they just worked it in.
Just to add it to the document of questions we're going to forget to ask people. Yep. So Gambit leaves kind of casually, just like walking down the street, and he sees Logan's bike and realizes Logan is right behind him. Mm-hmm. And Logan's like, all right, well, you got to give it back to me. And I love the line. He's like, no, man, it's already been converted to cash.
Right. Sounds like one of the NFT bros or something.
A fight breaks out between the two of them. Gambit hides in a location. Wolverine starts to cut it through, and then I got to question Gambit's strategy here. He blows a hole through that door.
Yeah.
So he made an entrance for Wolverine if Wolverine hadn't already gone through the roof, you know?
Yeah, which hilarious because they had to do it. I don't know if we've had the broken skylight yet. And they did.
No, this would have been the first skylight of the episode.
They did it. They were like, we have to keep up with tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't Stephen Gordon we were talking to? We were talking with one of the, either the Leewalds or Stephen Gordon. We were like, the skylights, and one of them said like, it's above and easy to, like, it's an easy entrance. That's not a door. I'm like, I guess I see that.
I feel like it was the Leewalds because it happened a lot during '92. They start going back and forth, and then Wolverine straight up just calls Gambit a sellout. He's like, you're selling out your own people for a little bit of money. And then this... So we have 3 Gambits.
Yeah.
You have 97 Gambit, who's a scoundrel. You have Evolution Gambit, who's a fuckboy. And then you have Wolverine and the X-Men Gambit, who's a scumbag.
Yeah.
Like, those are our 3 Gambits right now.
And I love how his hair kind of represents each stage. Because, you know, Evolution has the bowl cut. And then 92, 97 has the cool, like, you know, part or whatever.
Yeah.
And this Wolverine and the X-Men, he has the bowl cut in the back half and then the part in the front. So whatever a bowl cut version of a mullet is, so that's what this one has.
Yeah. But yeah, I love the reaction of like, no, it wasn't a little bit of money. It was a lot of money.
It's such a scabby thing to say.
No. And then Logan responds by burning all the money.
He shows us how rich Xavier is, you know, because
Warren shows us how rich Warren is.
Oh, that's right. Warren fixed it. Huh? So I'm putting it together now. So he was just going to tap Warren for the payment if he was going to pay Gambit.
If he was even going to pay him in the first place, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because he says, well, whatever you just lost, I'm going to pay you double for it. And we learn the rules of the Thieves Guild, which I thought was fantastic. That there was like a little bit of an ongoing bit throughout the episode.
Yeah.
You know, never reveal your source, and then after Wolverine burns it, it's like, you know where to find her. And he's like, rule number 2, always know your customers.
Yeah. I like how the third one, I'm not so sure applies to anybody but Gambit.
They literally had to write the rule for Gambit.
Yeah, you're like, you can't have sex with the client.
So Zane is driving fast through the streets, goes to this industrial park, drives with her very nice car right through a the arm of the gate. That's a terrible thing to do to your expensive car. Fuck the gate. You're ruining your own car when you're doing this.
That's what I was going to say. It was like all the other stuff showed confidence except for that. Like everyone I know, no matter how wealthy they are so precious about their car. Mm-hmm. Like I can't see that anyway.
Yeah. There was nothing about that car that gave any indication that it was like special or armored or anything like that.
Yeah.
And she just drove it through the gate. And I was like, that doesn't seem like something Bayonetta in X-Men would do.
Yeah.
Now that you said Bayonetta, I can't unsee it, by the way.
Yeah. It's the librarian glasses and the ponytail. I think it's probably heels or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So she drives into the lab, and we meet the scientist who they waited a second before name dropping it, but we find out is Boulevard Trask. And she hands off the collar, and she says she's going to check in on his other projects. And Trask is like, "What? You don't trust me?" And we get the moment of like, well, after that Prowler fiasco, yeah, none of us trust you.
Yeah.
And then there's, the mythical machine that could just analyze something of technology and dissect what it does. We still don't have those yet.
Except for Jelly Bellies. Have you seen this? Like how Jelly Bellies are able to find their flavors? This is fascinating. If you're curious, go look it up yourself because I'm going to butcher this explanation.
Perfect. Do it.
But the, people, you always wonder, like, the disgusting Jelly Bellies is like, does someone eat a sock and then make that flavor? They're like, no, they have this chamber. They put things in, like a fruit or something they want it to taste like, and somehow it aerates the molecules off it, and then the machine analyzes the molecules, and they're able to read that and then synthesize flavors from the molecules. And so that's how they do the good flavors, but also the disgusting ones. It's the closest thing we have to that, like, Star Trek kind of like scan this and then reproduce it.
And it's being used on jelly beans.
Yep. America, fuck yeah.
Oof.
I don't even know if Jelly Bellies is an American company. I'm just assuming it is.
It feels like a very American use of technology like that.
It's candy.
Yeah. Outside, Gambit and Wolverine arrive at the gates. Logan specifically smells Nas, which I thought, I was like, so he's going to illegal street races in the Fast and Furious franchise? Like, because that's the only time in the real world I've ever heard of Nas, like, outside of, like, actual people with, nice cars and stuff. So
that's the last crossover left, right? Is either going to be Fast and Furious in Jurassic Park or Fast and Furious in Marvel. Or all three, I don't know.
Jurassic Park. Oh. It's going to be Jurassic Park and Men in Black at the same time.
Ooh. I want to see the Jurassic Park Fast and Furious, though. I think that'd be hilarious, because one of the Jurassic World movies was pretty close to it, because most of it was like Chris Pratt on a motorcycle.
And the new dinosaur just looks fucking ugly. I'm sorry.
The one that's coming up?
Yeah.
I don't think I haven't seen it that
closely. It looks like a T-Rex combined with a xenomorph from Alien.
I don't want to criticize too much because I'm not a CG artist, so and also we're just seeing trailer stuff, so who knows how finished it is. But I wonder if it's a testament to how good CG was back in the mid '90s for Jurassic Park, because like the other dinosaurs in the new Jurassic World trailer don't look that far off to what the original Jurassic Park movie was like. I was like, man, was that really that good back then? The
big not brontosaurus thing looks fantastic. I just don't want the. I realize I'm saying this on a podcast about the X-Men, so there's irony to this. I don't want the mutant hybrid dinosaurs. Well, just give me the fucking original dinosaurs. No mutants.
What was the one that was like all white?
No more mutants.
Right. Yeah. What was the one that was all white? It was like it was a ridiculous name. It was like Unobtainium from Avatar, but
it was the Raptor. Something Rex. Indominus Rex?
Indominus Rex, yeah.
Yeah. The one that could literally camouflage itself like it was the Predator?
Yeah.
Fucking keep mutant powers to fucking mutants, guys.
Friends of humanity, guys.
Oh, God. Wolverine just walks up and beats the shit out of this innocent guy who's the security head.
Yeah, my note was Logan kills guard. Because this man has the hardest metal in his bones and is presumably fairly strong, and then there's just some dude.
Yep,
that's
just a regular guy who's probably getting paid like $20 an hour and does not care about this company.
Yeah,
because this is an industrial park with lots of different people.
Yeah,
like there were a lot of other things that weren't making Sentinel robots, so. He just beat the shit out of this poor guy and probably at least left him like brain damaged.
On the way in, Logan's like just beating up all people he thinks are guards, and it's just like the gift shop like attendant. He's like,
the poor night janitors are just running for their lives from Logan. Gambit is like, no, I want to take a subtle approach, and then we get this kind of like fun back and forth between the two where like one of them is doing their thing and then the other one hops in and did it a little bit better. Like Gambit's like, oh, I'm gonna go up this ladder, and Wolverine just jumps onto it and stuff like that. I kind of dig the back and forth between these two characters because they're obviously not allies, so it's a little more it's a more genuine like disdain for each other. Like, because, you know, like I said, this is scumbag Gambit.
I was going to say, it kind of reminds me, you remember the first Sega X-Men game?
Yeah.
It totally gave me the same energy of me and my brother when we were kids playing that game. And, like, he'd be Wolverine, I'd be Gambit. And then, like, one of us would go faster. And, like, you know, those side-scroller games when there's two players, if one goes faster than the other, the one that's slower gets, like, pushed off a platform or something.
Or you get killed,
So we would just do that to each other. So this scene...
Gambit still wants to take the subtle approach. And I love how, and maybe this is a part of it with Steven being like one of those carryover people from the Evolution show. The use of Gambit is really different other than just charge shit and watch it blow up. Because he like traces it with his finger and then it falls through. All that came to mind for me is that means there is no subtlety because a piece of the fucking ceiling just fell through like into one of these labs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there was layers to that because it was, like you said, no subtlety, and we find out later there were people in there who are not presumably athletic. They look like just like scientists.
Yeah, they were like it's like a AIM scientist basically at this point, and I put security fight, but it wasn't even like really that much of a fight. It was a pretty easy ass whipping.
Yeah, but then I was trying to mentally process how I know Gambit's powers and how the outlining would work because I was like, how does that? I'm just not going to think about it too much.
Yep. You get them exiting out the door, and they see from above. I put sexy client because there's no other way to describe her. Like how she's chilling at the computer. It's like, oh yeah, she's hot, and we want to remind you that she's hot.
Yeah, and also deaf. So is Trask.
Oh yeah,
because people are like stomping on the catwalk.
People stomping in the catwalk, beat the shit out of their other scientists, and had a part of the ceiling collapse.
Yeah, next door, like in the next room over.
Yep. You see a quick zoom in on the screen, and they hit us a couple times during the episode with this, but Master Mold's name is on the screen at that point. And that's where we get the moment of rule number 3, the no banging your clients rule. And they weren't subtle about it either. Like, there's definitely a more adult tone to this show compared to what we had, which I find ironic because this was the one that aired on Nickelodeon.
It's so funny.
Right? There's the... Oh, Logan recognizes Trask. Keep that awkward pause in there, Rob. Yeah, so Logan already knows who Trask is, presumably at this point. And because of the connection to Trask, he's able to piece everything together because they haven't seen any of the Sentinel stuff in here yet, that this is tied to the MRD and to Kelly.
Wolverine, like when you're saying they were trying to one-up each other, he was like, I'm just going to do this my way.
Yeah, plan B, go in loud.
He just jumps in, attacks Trask, and like destroys the lab. I love Gambit is not being subtle, but he's being a lot more like sly with it. So like he immediately goes for, I keep calling her Bayonetta, Ms. Zane's car, Sybil's car, and he like charges the whole fucking car.
Well, Zane is able to grab the collar. She shoots Logan. Also, the way she held a gun, it was like an action figure holding a gun.
Nice. Like
it was like her arm was just bent at like this weird angle that nobody holding a gun would do because of the kickback.
Yeah.
Which we never learned as kids because our G.I. Joes would always pose in the dumbest possible ways. Shoots Logan, and at that point, Gambit is standing by the car, wants to negotiate a new deal, and his deal is give me the collar or my buddy is going to murder you. And this is where I question, like, what is only seen by the TV audience versus what is seen by the other characters, because she tries to get in her car that he has charged, which seems like suicide.
Yeah, so it's like we see the glow,
right?
She doesn't know what's happening,
right? Is the glow seen by characters or not?
Yeah,
that's earlier, my question.
Gambit hands Wolverine his quote unquote card, and then it explodes. So, but Wolverine doesn't seem to like hesitate with it, right? So maybe it is just for us.
Yeah, so we know what's going on. Yeah.
That's more dangerous than than we originally thought. Then,
when it explodes, Gambit does grab the collar. Trask is shooting at people, and Logan is able to grab that collar. And then we get some back and forth, but I did want to just point out, Gambit, being resourceful, just grabs a box of bolts and nuts and is able to turn those into little mini weapons, which I thought was cool.
It kind of, I was going to say spoilers, but this movie is like 15, maybe 20 years old now. Shoot 'em up with Clive Owen. Clive Owen? Yeah.
Shoot 'em up.
I love that movie because, well, I'll put it this way because I haven't seen it in a while. If it didn't age well, this is from my early 2000s memory. At the time, I really loved it. It was like the over masculine, like macho gun movie, you know? So like there's a scene where he's like having sex with Monica Bellucci, and then a bunch of bad guys come in, and he's so badass that he's still having sex with her on the floor while shooting all the bad guys. There's a scene later on in the movie where they break all his fingers so he can't shoot anybody. So how this is a spoiler part, I guess, if you don't want to spoil for you. He empties his gun, all the bullets out, puts them between his broken fingers, and then sticks his hand in a fireplace and just starts aiming at people in the room. And so when Gambit did the nuts and bolts things, I was like, oh, it's like the shoot 'em up thing.
That was a journey to get there, and I don't disagree with it because I haven't seen the movie. I don't think I have thought about that movie since it came out in 2007. So.
I loved it.
Logan hops up, reverses a turret, and almost murders Trask with it.
See, this is like they brought in more video game mechanics, but different than the one we thought before. Because this is a totally the final boss level for a level, not final, like a level boss, right? It's like a bunch of turrets shooting at you, but then like a regular human up like in a thing above you and stuff. And then the trick is you have to spin them around to shoot him, and then that's how you win. So someone they it's like that they were hoping that a game would be made of this show.
Yeah. Zane activates a Prowler, which goes after Gambit. And then the one thing I'll make fun of from an animation perspective, Gambit running looked like a toddler who like gained momentum and didn't want to fall over because he's running with his arms out like this.
I didn't even
like
notice.
If you can just snag that little clip of it and throw it into the video version because he just runs so awkwardly, just like lurching forward on it. It's so unnatural, and he makes him look like such a like little chicken shit heel on it. Logan is able to drop on it and take out the first Prowler, and then Zane activates a second one, almost kills Trask in the process, and they're able to actually escape through a hatch. And then I don't understand why Logan was trying to make a deal with Gambit there of like, well, aren't you going to save me from this other one? Like, Logan could take out a Prowler by himself. He's done it twice. I didn't understand the motivation for him to even propose a deal kind of scenario.
Yeah, because he can heal. He has.
Yeah. I mean, unless he was literally planning to do the whole swap on him from the second he asked in the first place, maybe that's why, because it was like, oh, I'm going to get ahead, so he runs out to leave. But like, yeah, he could take out these things. He's literally done it to two, and one was seconds ago with kind of no problem.
So we'll go with that. It was a tactic to get Gambit to get out of the equation.
Yeah. So Gambit says he's not going to help unless Logan gives him the collar. Logan says sure, gives him the case, and then Gambit fucks off through a hole in the wall, leaves Logan behind, and then you just see just flashes and explosions going on inside the warehouse. Gambit gets outside, opens the case, realizes it's not there, and then did he call him a scoundrel? I think that's what he called him as like his compliment.
Yeah. I love my note here was like Wolverine definitely only gave him the case because it's like it's such like a trope, especially in the time period. It's like, okay, we only saw the case.
And especially, I mean, that's the whole reason why this thing probably had a case in the first place, was for this reveal at the end.
Yeah.
And then it cuts over to the mansion. Beast is pouring coffee. Logan comes in, just completely decimated, half of his costume ripped up and everything like that. And everybody was oblivious to the fact that he was even gone in the first place, including Forge, whose fucking lab had been ruined.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that dude doesn't sleep in his lab.
Oh, yeah.
Like that is the kind of guy that if he sleeps in a bed, he wakes up at 4:30 in the morning, like with an idea to run to his lab and start building it.
A lot of makers I know live in like spaces where their working space is like within arm's reach, literally.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. I think that was my favorite scene of the whole episode. Maybe the show so far. It was just so funny, and they didn't do the thing where they tell you. It just happened. He just walks in all beat up, just drops the thing and like leaves. And it's like so funny.
No, it was great juxtaposition. Absolutely. I just love that they woke up. They went right to the kitchen. Everybody avoided the front door, which had the security thing hanging out of the wall that had the elevator with the fucking bracket thing still stuck there.
Yeah.
Because Wolverine didn't fix those before he left to go on his motorcycle. Forge is totally unconcerned about his lab having been broken into. And did he say something that was like, I think we need better locks or something like that? Is like a go-home line, something to that extent?
Yeah. Wolverine was like, yeah, we need better locks.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or Forge, instead of sleepwalking, like sleep fixes things.
With this wacky version of Forge, I could actually see that being a thing.
Me sleepwalking, even in real life, is wild. Have you ever had that issue?
No, thank God.
I don't think I live alone now, so I don't know if I still do, but I don't think I have in the last decade or so. But my first roommate out of college,
except for that night where you punched a hole through a window,
right in the middle of the day. Chris, if you're listening for some odd reason, he was my first roommate out of college. It terrified this guy because apparently I would just wake up from a dead sleep, go like make pancakes, eat them, and then go back to bed. The only reason I found out was I woke up one morning and the kitchen was a mess. And I just started yelling at Chris. I was like, "What the fuck? Like, clean up after yourself." He's like, "Dude, you fucking did that." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you just like got up, didn't say a word to me because he was up playing video games or something. Walked across my screen, my line
of sight.
Line of sight. Went to the kitchen, made a bunch of pancakes, like ate them, and then just left everything. There just kept being stories.
You know, you could have burned down the entire apartment.
Oh, it gets weirder. There was one time. This is when I had a day job, so this was...
I love that this podcast is sometimes just trauma dump.
2006, maybe? 2006 or 7? So mid-2000s. I got home, 9 to 5, I get home from work, and I just, like, crash my couch and fall asleep until 8. That cycle where, like, that you could get out of, like, get home at, like, 5 or 6, crash on the couch, sleep until 9, so you don't get to bed until 2 in the morning, really, and then get tired the next day and do it all over again. My roommate, he had a different work schedule, so he came home like a couple hours after I did, and he woke me up when I was on the couch, and for some reason my shirt was off, and I had like nail scratches on my back, like I was having some like spicy time and stuff. Okay. And he was like, "Oh my God, like I'm sorry, like somebody else here?" I'm like, "No, I just came home." And he's like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, and I looked, he turned me around in the mirror, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And they were like in this way where I couldn't have done it to myself. So he's like, so Chris was like, "I swear to God, Rod, if I find some dead girl in here."
Well, we found the second clip of the week. Fuck's sake, Rod.
There was a neighbor. I guess if I wasn't fighting it, it might have happened. I don't know. But I sleep all kinds of things. So like sleep repairing things for someone who's like superhumanly smart. Sure, why not?
Thank you guys for joining us. And if you have any thoughts, make sure to drop them into the comments for either the YouTube upload or the official Instagram post about this episode and Spotify comment section. Occasionally I see stuff is there. And if you like what you heard, we would still appreciate a rating on the podcast app of your choosing. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, and CastBox.
Sometimes TikTok.